Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we break down the latest news and current events. I'm your host, Walter. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We've got a lot to cover, but first, let's dive into the world of politics. It's been an interesting week, with President Trump making headlines once again. This time, he's been dealing with the fallout from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, and it seems like he's trying to shift the focus elsewhere. Trump recently spent some time in Scotland, where he opened a new golf course in Aberdeen. Now, we're not here to criticize someone for enjoying a round of golf, but when you're the President of the United States, your priorities are under scrutiny. And with all the pressing issues facing the country, it's fair to ask whether this trip was really necessary. Meanwhile, back in the U.S., there's been a proposal to rename the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts after Donald Trump. Yes, you heard that right. The bill's sponsor claims that Trump is a patron of the arts and a staple of pop culture. While it's true that Trump has been a prominent figure in American culture, it's hard to see how renaming a national landmark after him would be a good idea. Late-night hosts have been having a field day with these stories, with Seth Meyers joking that Trump's transparency on the Epstein scandal is about as clear as his motives for opening a new golf course. And Jon Stewart has been wondering how the media is supposed to move on from the Epstein story when Trump seems to be having such a hard time doing so himself. Desi Lydic, guest hosting on The Daily Show, pointed out that it's starting to seem like being president of the United States is Trump's side hustle. And with all the distractions and controversies surrounding his presidency, it's fair to ask whether he's really putting the country's interests first. We'll continue to follow these stories and bring you updates as more information becomes available. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. What do you think about Trump's priorities as president? Should he be focusing on opening golf courses or addressing the pressing issues facing the nation? Let us know on social media using the hashtag #ConcreteBlock. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into a complex and concerning topic that's been making headlines around the world: the escalating threat of nuclear war. As we explore this issue, it's essential to approach it with a critical and nuanced perspective, considering multiple viewpoints and avoiding sensationalism. The story begins with a stark reality check. The world is becoming increasingly multipolar, with more countries developing nuclear capabilities. This shift has significant implications for global security and the delicate balance of power. Experts like John Bolton, former National Security Advisor, acknowledge that our existing frameworks for understanding nuclear deterrence are based on a bipolar model, which may no longer be relevant in today's tripolar world. One of the primary challenges in addressing this issue is the lack of clear solutions or innovative approaches to mitigate the risks associated with nuclear proliferation. Even bright minds in the field, such as Vipin Narang and Pranay Vadi, who have served in the Biden administration, struggle to prescribe concrete actions to address these concerns. The situation is further complicated by the emergence of new technologies, like hypersonic glide vehicles and artificial intelligence, which can accelerate decision-making and increase the potential for human error. The combination of misinformation and AI could thicken the fog of war and lead to catastrophic consequences. Despite these challenges, there are efforts underway to restart arms control negotiations, including trilateral talks involving Russia, China, and the United States. However, it remains unclear whether these nations can put aside their differences and work towards a common goal of reducing nuclear threats. As we consider this complex issue, it's crucial to acknowledge the diverse perspectives and interests at play. We must strive for a balanced understanding, recognizing both the concerns and the potential opportunities for cooperation. By doing so, we can foster a more informed and nuanced discussion about the future of nuclear security and the steps needed to mitigate these risks. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We've had a fantastic show so far, And now it's time to dive into our final segment. Today, we're going to talk about the latest developments in international trade, specifically focusing on the recent tariff agreements and threats made by the Trump administration. As you may know, the Trump administration has been actively engaged in renegotiating trade deals with various countries around the world. Recently, they've announced new tariff rates for several nations, including China, India, Japan, and the United Kingdom, among others. These tariffs have sparked intense debates and concerns about the potential impact on global trade and economies. Let's take a closer look at some of the key players involved. The United States and China have been locked in a trade war for some time now, with both countries imposing significant tariffs on each other's goods. However, a temporary agreement was reached last month, lowering the total U.S. tariff rate on China to 55%. Meanwhile, talks are ongoing between the two nations to hammer out a more permanent deal. In contrast, India has faced a more challenging situation. The Trump administration recently announced a 25% tariff on Indian products and threatened to impose penalties on the country for its purchases of Russian oil and military equipment. This move has strained relations between the two countries and raised concerns about the potential consequences for global trade. Other countries, such as Japan, the United Kingdom, and Brazil, have also been impacted by the Trump administration's tariff policies. The situation remains fluid, with negotiations ongoing and new developments emerging regularly. It's essential to approach this topic with a nuanced perspective, recognizing the complexities and uncertainties involved. While some argue that these tariffs are necessary to protect American industries and jobs, others claim that they will ultimately harm the global economy and lead to retaliatory measures from other countries. As we conclude today's episode of Concrete Block, it's clear that the world of international trade is becoming increasingly complex and unpredictable. As we move forward, it's crucial to stay informed about these developments and consider multiple perspectives on the issue. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.